Welcome back to the Chinese qualifiers for the Manila Major. Lyrical joined as well by Blaze. Sir, we got a wonderful match today. For me, the marquee matchup, Newbee facing off against CDEC Youth. It's going to be our first look at what many consider to be the favorites of these qualifiers. Break it down for me. What are we looking at?
Well, we are looking at some very impressive potential for Dota here in the Chinese scene. Newbie really have been on top of the world the past several weeks. Throughout, they're pretty much essentially like a week after the team got this roster, they were already looking sharp, and they've just refined it more and more as time has gone by. It doesn't matter what team they're facing; they are looking good. We're going into the qualifier on a 17. They've only lost one game in 17,
Yeah.
and they've only lost two in 21 days. So they are just straight up, and it's not like they're not playing. They are playing tons of teams. They are just absolutely trouncing them, and they are one of my favorites for the region and potentially the world if we get that far. I mean, obviously this is high stakes, getting the invite to the middle major, and I do think that this team absolutely has the strategy and the skill to go the distance.
I'm really excited for it, but let's hop right on into the draft and we can talk a little bit more about it. As you take a look at this, we see some other bands that are a little bit interesting. CDEC Youth and Newbie also have a very storied history against each other. They played against each other in a lot of the online competitions, which of course this is very similar to, although at much higher stakes. And Newbie were able to consistently beat them out, but the games did look close at times. It was fairly competitive. And I think that out of the teams that Newbie has played, probably CDEC Youth know them best. And as far as the drafts are concerned, the K Phoenix Doom banned out immediately. No real surprise there. And
I would be honestly really surprised if K Phoenix got doomed this qualifier at all.
yeah,
Like it would honestly just be a mistake. I mean, the guy's record is absolutely outstanding. I think it's like 14-1 on the hero. Really, just always churning out the results they want in that offlane Doom capacity, and showing that it doesn't have to be a jungle roamer to really get the consistent results. But take something out of the pool, you got to leave something in. It's going to be the Chuan Enchantress, and Kako should pick up the Oracle there. So a really good support duo. There is some flexibility in the Enchantress, but we've been seeing it kind of die down for the core role more and more. And so far in 6.87, we'll see if they want to adapt that a little bit here.
you know the thing that I find interesting, this was like I want to say this was the core that people picked all throughout the beginning stages of 6.86 was like Enchantress Oracle, and then the problem that you ended up running into was this issue of early pushing lineups and them not being able to deal with sort of the late game scalability of trying to get some wave clear coming out. Enchantress, not really the greatest for it unless you got the creeps, and that sort of relies on RNG a little bit. Oracle, very single target focused, and CDEC Youth, I kind of like the start to their draft. You got Batrider for the ability to pull somebody out, Juggernaut for that ability to keep things pushed in, and then a Witch Doctor just to help out in that lane support as well as the sustainability there. There's a lot of push potential in CDEC Youth's draft here.
Absolutely, they can definitely tone up the aggression here. They're going to be able to kind of exploit the fact that, the very least, the Enchantress is very limited when she has a lot of spells thrown her way. The Juggernaut Spin, the Paralyzing Cask, at least is going to be good against Enchantress's creeps, if not Enchantress herself. And then, of course, the Death Ward will come into play a little bit later. Just between the two ultimates here, the Batrider and the Witch Doctor, I feel like they have kill potential on just about anybody. Maybe the DK absorbs enough of it to be able to at least issue a stun and a breathe fire and a response. But in general, they're going to have a huge amount of kill potential just between the Batrider and the Witch Doctor. And now they've got the global presence. They've got this mobility where whenever a Batrider finds a lasso, Juggernaut and Wisp are there, or Wisp and anybody are there. And that's going to create tons of opportunities here across the board, just really generating momentum and kind of playing it by the minute. I mean, Batrider's early lasso cooldown 90 seconds. Wisp relocate shorter than that, so they should be able to play around these short ultimates and just make jumps across the map.
I'm pretty interested in this too. You look at the Dragon Knight. This is not a hero that they picked up almost at all in 6.86, if I'm not mistaken. And seeing the value that you end up being able to get by that, it was just the increased damage to be at all levels, the 35% reduction, if I'm not mistaken, on that Breathe Fire. And then Weaver also going to be another one. So this, to me, it feels very interesting. You've got like a decent chunk of physical damage and fairly high armor, and then mix that in with some early aggression that can come out. I really want to see what it is that Newbie used to pull this all together at the end, because right now they are lacking some disable. Like, they've only got one stun on their lineup right now.
Yeah, and so they definitely can kind of flesh that out a little bit, but I still think that they have a good mix of survivability and damage output. If you could just keep these heroes alive for longer and longer periods of time, especially the Weaver, then you still really have the potential to take the fights, control or not. Obviously, the big thing is interrupting that death ward, and we'll see how they kind of play around that and how they build around that. But overall, I do think that there's a lot of value in these cores, and while you're absolutely right in the fact that Mu in 6.86 really didn't play anything along the lines of the Dragon Knight, because about 70% of his hero pool was focused exclusively on those intelligence cores like the DP and the OD and such.
Hmm.
Uh, it still harkens back to an age gone by where Mu was actually one of the best melee strength mids in Dota 2, period. I
Yeah.
remember his Clockwork mid was just the most astounding thing that I got to watch a couple years back. So the DK is definitely still very familiar to him, and we got to see a little bit more of its strength in the laning phase in our very recent China match. I think it was about now 2.5 hours ago, but we got to see really just that it can seriously dominate if it has the right momentum, if it has the early creep block, and obviously a lot of mana to play around with.
Well, and now you're seeing as well one last pick coming out from Newbee with the Darkseer and the Bristleback already banned. It feels like offlane is going to be the name of the game. You got a lot of things to contend with here. I'm looking at the potential that they could have had with an Ion Shell there, but they're actually going to go back for the Void. Very interesting. I'm really concerned about their ability to do damage. There's been a trend, I feel like, of Enchantresses just trying to play it in the same way that you saw in 6.86, Dragon Lances, as well as trying to go for Aghanim Scepters. And I don't know if you're going to be able to burst through the side of CDEC Youth with that. I mean, it's still great against Juggernaut, but I don't know. I'm a little bit concerned, and I think that CDEC Youth have drafted really well.
Yeah, I'm curious how the lanes break down. I think it's going to be a big deal here. Are CDEC Youth going to be going for a dual lane mid, or are they going to put Inflame on a kind of a characteristic mid Bat Rider? He's also running the safe lane too, so they have some flexibility in it. But the bottom line is really what we're going to be seeing in this lane matchup. Tiny is still in the pool if they just want to kind of go that route.
Mm.
Witch Doctor as the 5 position here, obviously, and then still generating opportunities as well as a lot of burst damage, which is very powerful against Weaver and Void. Tiny is a bit cooldown intensive, but I still think the burst is something that trumps it. Otherwise, you maybe look at a Chaos Knight. That brings a lot in terms of potentially longer duration disables, which can shut down survivability tools such as the time lapse and the time walk. So these guys are trying to traipse past and bend the laws of physics to their will, but I think some good control, some good disables could change it up.
Oh
But they
my
go a
god.
different route, and it's going to be a little weird because IO Anti-Mage don't have the most directive synergies. Like, the Anti-Mage already has a good amount of agility and base attack time to get his attacks out, and he's already very mobile with his own little blink. But I still think that the space that is going to be created by Batrider as well as the Juggernaut IO is going to be enough for Ame to do some incredible things on the AM. And of course, the safe lane matchup is going to be so easy. You just have to go Iron Talon outright, I think, for Void, because
Mm.
the more mana breaks you take, the more impossible it is for you to actually survive that lane.
Well, and we'll see what they end up opting to go for. I mean, is there any chance that you try and be slightly aggressive on this anti-mage? I know it's a hero that traditionally doesn't deal with early pressure well, but then again, they also don't have the highest pushing lineups in the world. Maybe you think about Chuan rotating down there with the Weaver. Like, is that a possibility at all, or do they just not really get enough in that lane against the anti-mage?
I mean, there's definitely a potential aggressive stance from both sides here. I mean,
Ooh.
what we could see early on is the potential for the anti-mage to build into not just like the classic battle fury, but also go into something like the Vanguard. The Abyssal Blade buildup has changed a lot, so a lot of more people are giving consideration to items like Vanguard. And you were talking about the problem Newbie have where they're not able to put that much damage into the Chronosphere and into the game in general. With the exception of Impetus, a Vanguard would take almost all of their damage output away, and that would make so difficult to actually pin down Ame. But it really comes down to if he feels the value of being able to split up a little bit and just focus on his farm and his own confidence to dodge Chronos in those
Mm.
tight spots, uh, or if he's gonna just kind of look for the fight while he still has the chance.
Did end up leveling already the mana break
Yeah.
there, and trading a couple of hits with Void, always a nice thing to be able to do, but he's going to regen back up from that. I'm liking what I'm seeing so far. There's both squads moving out across the map. I'm not sure what CDEC's youth's agenda is going to be here. Like, you're running, essentially, this is going to be, YZ or XZ, excuse me, on the Juggernaut, and Iron Talon jungling. Like, it feels very strange to me.
Yeah, it definitely is going to be changing up how the economy plays out early on. The Juggernaut isn't the worst at it, to be honest with you. Like, if he gets the Blade Dance early, that's actually one of the better crit spells at it's level 1 and it's level 4 by comparison to a lot. It's very consistent damage, and you should be able to get a lot done there. But yeah, it's kind of just going to be sacking the offlane to an extent here. He doesn't feel very comfortable here going up against the Weaver plus the Oracle. And I'm trying to argue that while Spin is a great defensive tool, it has a long cooldown, and in the meantime, you're taking a lot of auto attacks from a 600 range low base attack time hero. So he just feels like he's going to get more done. Instead of going like Stout Shield, Double Tango, maybe a Healing Salve, he's just going to go into the jungle and see what he can do with the early crit.
I'm kind of wondering too, like the matchup of Weaver versus Anti-Mage late game, was he just a little bit, excuse me, the matchup of Weaver versus Juggernaut late game, or even mid game, was he worried about that high amount of physical DPS going into the Jug and not being able to stand up to the Weaver? And that's why they ended up going back for Ame on the Anti-Mage? Like, was that a response to the Weaver pick that they maybe weren't expecting?
I mean, I would say it's a little bit more the other way around, that it's hard for the Juggernaut to really pin down the Weaver to a large extent. Like, there's so many ways for the Weaver to disengage from a tough spot, break the Omni Slash, or just be able to build himself tanky enough that he can negate its impact. But I feel like XZ is definitely not going to solo carry this game. Yeah. It's going to be on the back. I mean, IO does make just about anybody a half-decent carry with the power of Overcharge and with the healing, but end of the day, they wanted more. And while it's not like a lone druid, it is going to be still something that creates some push and, builds its own momentum.
Enchantress moving into the jungle now, does have the little clappy creep as well as a Hadouken to give it away over there to Ame. My god, that's so much damage already, just being forced almost out of lane. This is hyper aggression here, and we're seeing the tri-lane that's coming out from CDEC Youth, and they just don't have a great answer.
Yeah, it is going to be a huge amount of pressure generated here from the Enchantress. Just getting pretty much the two perfect creeps. Satyr, Tormentor, as well as Hellbear Smasher. That's your tools for harassment. I mean, Doom will prefer the Mud Golem over the Hellbear, but certainly the Enchantress has no trouble getting him involved here. Though now, the mana pool has been exhausted for the Hellbear, and of course, Satyr's only got one more blast remaining.
Yeah, they're going to keep on doing a couple more hits here, though. I mean, they still got a decent chunk of HP, so they're going to be able to chase them down under the tower. I'm thinking about potentially trying to go for a reconnect real quick just because of how bad the lag is. So we might have a second of Radio Dota while I reconnect to this. That's not what we want to look at. There we go. And we will make this work for you guys and try to provide the best viewing experience possible. Nothing really happening in the bottom lane. Ame is continuing to farm up here, and they brought on in the Satyr to try and right-click him down a little bit more, the Anti-Mage. As far as moving into the mid game here, is there anything in particular that you feel like a particular side wants to get done to make their draft work for them?
I mean, obviously getting Victoria to level 6 as quickly as possible and getting Inflame, the Blink Dagger as quickly as possible, those are their two keys to the game. Because once they have the Last Initiation, Relocate, follow-up, you can pretty much find a kill on anybody with the right mindset, with the right opportunity. So I do think that those are going to be very, very important. But other than that, like, I don't know if they need a certain degree of map control with this draft. It's actually quite interesting. With every time they use a smoke, they're going to be able to force Newbee into a very defensive stance and usually get a kill out of it as well. So I feel like they have innate map control with the Batrider presence. They just, I guess the big thing they have to avoid is pushing too hard. Because you push yourself into a Chronosphere, you put yourself in a spot where it's a very natural response for the Weaver to rotate, and the Enchantress as well, when she's level 6. Yeah. And suddenly you're actually going to be giving kills away that should never have happened. Just avoid the fight, and only go when the pickoffs favor your opportunity.
Let's see if they're going to be able to make that work for themselves. I kind of am interested as well. You see the Juggernaut end up going back for the Blightstone after the Iron Talon, so a little bit more of that jungling potential. I don't feel like we're ever going to see a Deso picked up first on the Jug, but at least that extra little bit of minus armor coming their way feels like it's a pretty strong ability. as far as mid is concerned, you know, you're taking a look at this. Dragonite's been able to keep up with the Batrider. It's pretty much even. I think the big story so far is just the disparity between the farm of the Anti-Mage and the farm of the Weaver. 33 and 9 versus 19 and 6. Weaver's gained everything he wants up here.
So he's just completely uncontested in this lane. Can actually start pressuring the tower harder. I think would be a good idea, because right now Victoria, even with his low armor, is starting to get on the lane and starting to get that experience that he's really looking for. So I think it would be in the best interest of Kakanhao to really start forcing the issue on this top lane, breaking the tower and looking to dive, because obviously a Weaver at level 6 has no issue tower diving against like the level 4 Wisp and Jug.
Yeah, absolutely. Also worth noting, we did see the first scan of the day as XZ was checking to make sure nobody was going to be ganking him from the river. He's safe and sound, and that signals that they should be fine to continue their farming and going to try and move back up here. I think that that's like the play that you end up seeing all the time, is the wraparound behind the tier 1 and then try to end up being able to just take out the tower. But not going to be able to do that this time around, as they're going to be moving down towards this bottom lane instead.
Yeah, but they're not going to be able to gank up on the jungle to delay the Batrider's flank. What they're just going to be looking to do is force Ame out of lane, and should have no trouble doing that. Just moving in, brute force with all these creeps. They're going to be able to bully back the creep wave, and this should also generate a lot of damage into the tier 1 bottom. Moo, does he want to Elder Dragon form? Yes, he's going to pop it, get that corrosive breath, and they're just fully committed to this bottom tier 1.
Yeah. Easy, easy, easy. And there's not really a great counter move right now from CDEC Youth. Like, they don't have the ability to try and push this mid lane out, and Ame has actually been forced into the mid lane himself. You got Demons that's there on the Witch Doctor who's trying to just make sure he doesn't end up getting jumped upon. But with Chuan hanging out on the side, boots available, they could try and make something happen. Well, not really.
Yeah, they're just kind of making sure that if the opportunity presents itself, that they're going to be able to make their move, but yeah, it is not going to be the most clear-cut of things, and in fact, it's going to be Inflame cutting past the tower and looking for Kaka here, and he's actually going to be dropping down very quickly. No matter how many they TP, and they're going to bring down Kaka, but the question is the response.
Oh, really good decision-making there. Moo opts to go onto Demons, doing a ton of damage. That is going to be a kill. Also, they're going to be able to drop the bugs here, and they took a kill on the Oracle, but man, are they going to pay for it. They lose 3 in an instant. And Moo, with that Elder Dragon form, they're going to be able to maybe even push the mid-tier 1 tower themselves.
Yep, so they're going to be able to direct their aggression here into a second tower. If they take this 2-tower advantage without almost any trade whatsoever from CDEC Youth, then it doesn't matter really how quickly your Batrider has his blink, because he's only going to be able to get surprise attacks through the smoke, because your lanes are going to be pressed in. That's one thing that Weaver can do very continuously and almost recklessly. And it's just really slow rolling for CDEC Youth as a whole. They're still 1,000 gold away from Inflame's blink, and this offlane / jungle Juggernaut is just going for a medallion buildup. So all in all, not much to show for their first 8 minutes.
This has really been tough. I honestly, though, it's been tough by virtue of Newbee making great decisions around the map. Like, they push in the tier 1 tower in the bottom lane. They realize, all right, if you're going to dive for the Oracle, we're going to be able to TP in mass, and you can't get out quickly enough because you're going to have to dive everybody there. And then also the decision not to go onto Ame, but instead heading over onto the Witch Doctor. Like, it just feels like they're all on the same page. K-Phoenix does have the capability to drop a Chronosphere, but with nobody else in the area, that's nothing doing.
Yeah, you're going to usually look for 3 heroes to be involved in every chrono play. Like, they're obviously Void is no longer the solo kill machine, and probably never will be again. That's just not the vision that Ice Frog has for the hero any longer. But there's still so much potential with either the Weaver, the Enchantress, or one more to be involved and to create those chrono opportunities. Demons will lose smoke, but I'm not sure that Moo actually caught sight of that, and he is going to be opened up upon.
They have the Omni Slash if they want to be able to go for it, but he is not afraid. You got Moo here. He is very, very not afraid of anything that could have come his way, I guess.
Because they're also creating space up top, whereas if you're forced to go on the tanky Dragonite across the river, he's going to have reinforcements, and Hao's going to get a free tower. No matter what, it's essentially a win-win for Newbee, and so they know that they can go into a fight like that. And, of course, we also see that Inflame didn't skill Flame Break, so there's not even really an easy way for them to close that distance. But there's plenty of ways to go from high ground to low and burst down XZ before Victoria can do a damn thing.
Yeah, and Victoria now is also going to get netted up. There's just so much damage coming out from their side, and you got the cast bounce, sure, but then Oracle just finishes them off with a cherry on top. Jump forward, K-Phoenix catches two. Demons is going to drop. This is just a rolling train of destruction, and Newbee are the conductors.
And now you gotta really bring to question, what is the role of the Anti-Mage and the Juggernaut in a game that is starting to spiral out of control rapidly? I mean, yes, it's only a 5-kill lead, but it's also only 10 minutes into the game. So that translates to a 4,500 net worth advantage, and that it translates to 3 of Newbee's cores in the top 4 of overall net worth.
Yeah, they're doing such a great job. How is going to be able to time-lapse away from this one, and he's thinking about trying to go into this a little bit further. This might be a little bit bold, but he's actually out of Firefly. So they don't find the kill. They use Flame Break. Man, that I guess he timed that out perfectly.
Yep, and is able to really just get that extra bonus from the tower, building up his Lincolns, which will negate a lot of the Batrider's early potential. He's going to have to go force just to break the Lincolns of How and try to get that initiation off. And then, of course, he's not going to have it to pull his target out of position. So harder and harder for CDEC Youth to find clear focus targets as that item comes out. And in the meantime, they're able to just continue to farm on the Radiant jungle. So suppressing CDEC Youth, making it so that their economy is extremely limited while Newbee's is blooming. I mean, Moo practically has an armlet already.
Yeah. I love this build too, like just right into fighting. We're going to end up continuing to go, and they're not really stopping for much. I think that sometimes people get bogged down in the mistakes that teams are making. CDEC Youth are not making that many mistakes. It's more Newbee are like forcing them to make tough decisions and then capitalizing upon the fact that they have to make tough decisions.
Sure. Yeah, just really pulling them a lot of different directions and really into a direction that their game was never meant to go. I don't really think that you're drafting these kinds of heroes in this kind of situation if you're expecting to fight and get involved in 7 kills in 11 minutes. I really feel like Newbee know the pressure point here. They're able to kind of control the tempo of the game and make it so that CDEC Youth can't play the game that they were looking for, which, to summarize, was basically a farm fest.
And you look right here, Batrider is trying to create whatever space he can. They realize he's going to TP away. Go back in towards the mid lane. You've still got Elder Dragon form, so you're going to be able to continue to get some value out of this one. I believe that is going to be the armlet coming out to Dragon Knight right now. XZ is going to walk on in there, Blade Fury in it up. They get the ensnare. I don't know exactly what his plan is here, as they just dropped the Chronosphere and he's freaking dead. Just too much damage too quickly, and very bold plays from CDEC Youth. Who do you jump on?
At this point, they don't really have that opportunity because Newbee are in full 5-man mode. Like, their draft is designed to just find random pickoffs, essentially 3v1 when the relocate comes in. Instead, they're the ones getting caught in flame. No way out of here.
Oh my god, it's so good. They don't get the relocate away. They are probably just going to end up being able to kill off the Wisp, but honestly, they're looking for a little bit more, trying to see if they can scope out demons. Worth noting that you showed Dragon Knight up there in the top lane, made them think that they were in full retreat. Excuse me, not Dragon Knight, it was
the Void.
The Void, right. But what does the Void bring to the fight at this point? It's just the Chronosphere, which is already on cooldown. It makes them think that they're safe to chase. They weren't safe to chase.
Certainly not, and they're able to turn it back the other way. And I also love the way How moved just now, because essentially he was scouting any potential tether targets when the relocate rebounded. He said, okay, well, if the Witch Doctor sits under his tier 2 tower, moves a little bit east, that's a tether opportunity that would get Wisp out. So not only are you securing the Wisp kill by making sure that he doesn't have anybody to jump to, but you're also potentially finding an extra kill by somebody who's just trying to save Private Ryan here.
Yeah. All right, well, this could be a pretty nice play if they can get somebody to the low ground. Inflame is already still in Firefly mode. How does not have his Lincolns as of yet, so they are going to think about going, but already just so freaking low, and he might, oh my god. This takes so much damage here. Moo goes for the Breathe Fire, bringing Inflame low. He's not dead as of yet. He's still got the bugs on him, as well as that negative earn charge, but now getting healed. They do not stop.
Yeah, I really feel like CDEC Youth were looking to pick their battles a lot more carefully here. They've got a lot of tools to sustain one target on the front lines, no matter what he's up against, because you've got, via the tether, you've got a 2.5x heal on Healing Ward, as well as Voodoo Restoration, and that's a really good thing to have for like a fighting mindset. But the problem is, this anti-mage isn't a death baller. All he wants to do is run from the fights. And so far, he's accomplished that. He's not died, but he's only got himself 5,900 net worth. That will be enough of the Battle Fury here at about 14 minutes, so he is going to start to push out the towers and clear out the camps. He's a great flash farmer at this stage in the game, but it doesn't make him safe. One misstep under a ward, and suddenly he's chronoed.
Oh, and the other thing to keep in mind here as well is that the jungle is not a safe place at all. No tier 2 towers left on the map at 14 minutes into this game. And honestly, the thing that's really scary to me about this is that this is not necessarily indicative of how we saw Newbee play their games before. They actually had one of the longest game streaks, like as far as how long they played games in 6.85 out of all the other Chinese squads. It's just they saw this opening and they went for it. I'm really curious to see what the play now is from CDEC Youth. Do you, I mean,
just spread as hard as you can. It's going to be tough because obviously I just talked about the Void, and now Mu saves up enough gold for the Blink Dagger on top of his armlet. So it is going to be very difficult because that initiation is just about anywhere. But what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to farm the Jug on the lane with the Wisp behind him. Jug has to not spin at all, or there's no way the relocate tether works. So you have to essentially push with the Jug and tell him not to hit his panic button and not to spin in a desperate situation. So this will make it so that you can only sacrifice the Wisp, and you force Newbee to rotate. You force kind of control where they move for the next couple of minutes. From there, you hope and pray the anti-mage just keeps doing the same without the help of the Wisp, and is able to disengage before the Blink Dragon Tail or the Chrono comes out.
I mean, that being said, we're looking at a situation where, you know, Weaver just picked up Aegis and Lincoln Sphere with the Aquila, and Anti-Mage has a Battle Fury and Treads. And actually, they're about to run into trouble. They end up being able to get that Anti-Mage out of there, but Mu looking for something. He does have Blink available. Is going to try and chase down Inflame. Is not quite in range. Going to TP to the tier 2 tower. We're going to hem you around. Oh, Inflame, where do you want to go now? Actually going to jump back the other direction, so another really nice play there. It looks like he's going to be able to escape.
If they spread that out a little bit more and just kind of weaved a web for him to fall into, that TP play would have been absolutely brilliant. But no, they're not going to get on the play of the week reel with that one, as it is just going to be Inflame slipping through the obvious crevice to the west. But how? Fearless here, 2 lives, as well as spell block. He's going to be in a great position just to run at his opponents.
Oh my god, he does not care. This is not a person that is concerned. Victoria not going to die. But yeah, we're looking at it. You also have, I don't know if I love the Shadow Blade on Faceless Void. It's great for initiations, being able to find them up front and center if you're hanging out outside the base. You do also get the attack speed and damage, which is a pretty nice combo. You've got the Mask of Madness already on Faceless Void, so I guess it's okay. But as far as taking high ground, it could be difficult.
Yeah, obviously it doesn't fuel that, but Weaver and Dragonite do so much for that already. I don't think that that's going to be nearly as much of an issue. And the big thing here is it creates opportunities to actually kill the Anti-Mage. Yeah. Because I've been talking about Chronos from like trees under wards, but if you don't see the Anti-Mage before he sees you, there's no way that happens. Oh, Demon's lucky with the Sentry Ward there. But essentially, by being able to Chrono from Shadow Blade, it's like, stunning from Invis. Like, you're able to get the full cast animation and have the instant disable.
Mid though, they found Inflame. They're gonna try and hold on to Mu, but How is there as well, and that was not a flaming lasso that was ever gonna work, unfortunately.
I mean, at this point, which ones will? As CDEC Youth, their draft is not working the way they intended it to. They really just wanted quick ganks, quick jumps, simple follow through with the Wisp, but they didn't go for like the tiny dual lane. I don't remember if Lundra was in the pool, but they didn't go for that instead of the Anti-Mage and focus on push, focus on early momentum. They just kind of played their own weird style where they get greedy.
And now Mu is knocking on your front door. You've got How and Chuan there, as well as a nice little Hellbear Smasher, starting to be able to take this on down. We do also have the Bat Rider that's there, and he's going to be respawning in just a second, so maybe find an initiation point, but who do you really go on to at this point? Also, Kaka is there. He's level 8. He's got his ultimate, and they just take, I mean, this is the easiest high ground siege I think I've seen this patch so far. Exy's going to go for the Blade Fury, going to try and keep it alive, but there's going to be the Chronosphere, catches too, and the Casket's still doing a lot of work, but Victoria just eliminated. They throw in the Witch Doctor ultimate, and they chase again. Looks like they're going to be fine for the moment, though.
Yep, able to reset things here, time walking out, and that's going to make it so that despite going under tier 4, despite going up against the Death Ward, they just don't struggle.
No, XZ! They didn't even have time to jump forward on K Phoenix there.
Yeah, I mean, just CDEC Youth. It'll all be over soon. I don't really know what else to say to you guys. This is just a disaster. Nothing strategically is going the way that they want it to, and I mean, the kill score tells the base of the story here. 12-1, 20-minute mid lane of Rax, and it is going to be CDEC Youth that, I mean, they'll fish for one more kill. They'll try to bring it back. They got the 4-staff now, so there are theoretical kill opportunities on a variety of heroes, but more often than not, it's just going to be, I don't know, dust in the wind.
Well, they've not really progressed all that far in items. They have the Sange that's up on the Dragon Knight as well. So at this stage, like, do you need to start thinking about maybe going for another lane of Rax? Do you want to try and wait for the next Roshan, or is that not? I mean, I guess they've still got Aegis back up, but it's going to expire fairly soon here. So I don't know. What would be the play for you at this stage?
I think Newbee still need to look for the 5-man. I feel like they're still extremely strong right now, and CDEC Youth, the lineup only works in a pickoff format.
Oh, blink away. All right. Now it looks like they're going to sacrifice Chuan. So they get away with one. I think that Dragon Knight gets out here as Blink in a second. No, nice flame break back. But I don't think we got any more.
That's not a fight you want to take, man. That is just going to be full of false promises, more than Oracle could ever utter. But it is going to be just 4 heroes walking in. No Aegis, no worries. They're still going to be moving in, and double damaged Desolator Weaver can pretty much find anybody and turn them into mincemeat.
It is worth noting, though, we still do not have that Enchantress up and available. So you do maybe kill Victoria? My God.
Yes.
What
Yes,
is going on? How is just unleashing a storm of devastation onto CDEC Youth?
This guy hits for 310 with the double damage rune.
Oh,
they
God.
are down to negative armor, and they are just non-existent at this point. Geminate, double damage, you are hitting for over 600, which is amplified instead of reduced by armor thanks to the Desolator.
It is just not fair. They've caught XZ. It's just too much. They go for the Blade Fury away. They don't care at all. Ame is trying to do anything that he can, but rooted to the spot. Actually, he's going to be able to get away from that one. So the Blink, and now with the ward placed down, everything considered, everything available. They are going to back for the moment. A really nice blink there onto Ame. They do get that Omni Slash down, but it's not quite enough damage. Moo's still alive. False Promise keeping him there. Ame trying to turn on the Kaka. He doesn't actually be able to get off his ultimate. Unfortunately, he's forced to blink away. They're going to jump forward, catch onto Ame. A couple more bashes might just about do it if they're able to find it. How ends up going out. They're going to back up. Eyes on the prize, and do not want to end up giving these away. There's the link. It's popped. Going to bring Hao back in. It does look like they finally find themselves the kill. And Moo looking for a little bit. Is he going to be able to get out of there? They dropped the Sentry Ward. He's trying to get away, but I think that they've overstepped their bounds a little bit. They
just lost their 2 carries.
This is an issue.
But just wait for this kill report. This is 770 gold going to the Anti-Mage, 545 going to the Bat Rider. Like, they just fed so much back the other way. I wouldn't say that this changes the state of the game because Newbee have been dominant up to this point, but you're going to see just such a massive dip in the graphs. You're going to see such unnecessary losses fed the other way to CDEC Youth, and it really just rebolsters them to think, well, maybe this is a Game of Thrones. Maybe this is one that we can bring back. Just keep looking for those opportunities.
Tier 1 tower starting to be taken in mid by illusions and creeps. Anti-Mage
just got a Reaver. Anti-Mage just got a Reaver.
Yeah, it's not good. Yeah, his advanced style. He's got a Reaver. He's the top net worth hero in the game. And I do think that this is scary, but the problem that I would say is even if he had the completed heart, I do believe that Newbee have the pieces to deal with him. Like, it's certainly not what you want to be doing, and they can't get away with that type of play. But this time they might.
The heart is still not enough. I will agree with that. However, getting a butterfly on top of the heart will actually put him in a position to contest everything the Newbee are doing. Because the Weaver doesn't really want to go right into MKB after Scotty Dezo. And obviously the Dragon Knight, his damage is kind of limited. I mean, Armlet SNY treads amazing damage output for 24 minutes, but we're going to be looking at Heart Butterfly. Like,
I mean, Ame he's chronoed, he's right-clicked.
oh, Victoria!
He's dead. That's the issue. Victoria not
hit tether at the last possible moment, and he just jumps to the chrono. And as such, I'm not going to say he alone is responsible for their fate.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But it is the final play that knocks down their bottom lane.
I almost think that
While it does make him tanky, does take away his buyback potential. If Victoria relocates properly there, then everything's fine. The Wisp respawns shortly. Anti-Mage continues to do his thing. But no, sir. The key here is relocate, wait the nearly full cast delay, like 2.3 seconds out of the 2.5, and then hit tether at the last possible moment. And he just jumps to the chrono. And as such, I'm not going to say he alone is responsible for their fate.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But it is the final play that knocks down their bottom lane.
I almost think that it might have even been possible for Anti-Mage to be settling just for the Reaver and then going back for some evasion, and he could still do that, I think, because the HP that comes from that Reaver, I feel like, is probably enough to allow him to be tanky if they're not right-clicking him. But you've also now going to have to contend with the Fusel Blade that's been completed on Faceless Void. He's got Mask of Madness. Even if they only hits him a couple of times, this is going to be a real issue. And you can still focus down the other heroes outside of the AM, potentially.
Looks like how might look at... Okay, let's just go to the Eagle Song. So nothing flashy, just tried and true, very effective potential output here. And then they'll just go ahead, I'm assuming, to look for Roshan. But for now, they're pulling back. They're a little bit worried about Inflame's participation in the pit.
Yeah, they have these illusions that are out here that are going to spot out the movements. They smoke into Roche. I'm pretty sure that they're going to realize that this is happening, though. And they do not opt to stick around too much further. As realizing the creeps in it, there's nothing they could do. So kind of a little bit of a waste of smoke. You can see that they want to try and make something happen here. They've got to do something.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they can't let Newbee just get the Roche for free because that is the game. Once Aegis is in Newbee's hands and they're already up 4 racks, there's no way CDEC Youth fight. There's no way they can stop the trade that Newbee is rolling all over them. But if they look for those smoke contests, maybe there's a chance they take the miracle fight. Victoria almost has a mechanism. I gotta say that that's still massive in terms of the potential survivability of one hero, but the state of the game, it's almost out of control. The Roshan is going down quick. This is CDEC Youth's last opportunity.
All right, well, they're going to be looking for it now. They back out.
Yep.
Oh, no.
5 seconds too late.
Oh, no. Well, you got an Anti-Mage. You're going to be able to push out waves very quickly. Is that the play at this point, or do you have to fight? Oh, this might be the moment. How actually...
He's got the Aegis. Like, doesn't matter what they do to him.
And Enchantress actually did end up already killing off the Bat Rider as well. And now they jump forward. They catch 2 on the edge of the Chronos here, which just means everybody else is going to have time to catch back up. XZ does end up dropping. No more amount of Blade Fury is going to keep him out of this one. And I have a feeling that no relocates are going to get you out of there either, as How is killing off those creeps.
Yep. So it is going to be him going down for perhaps the last time here. It is 4 down for CDEC Youth, and at this point, it's just a matter of time before it's finished off. I mean, just trying to think about what went wrong in this game. I obviously have a little bit of an issue with the Tricore presented here. The Bat Rider and Juggernaut have some potential. Even Bat Rider and Anti-Mage, creating space for the Space Creator, has some value, but they couldn't lane the XZ the way they needed to, and they couldn't withstand the punishment that was brought to the safe lane. They thought, oh, easy matchup, Anti-Mage over Faceless Void any day of the week. But the Chuan factor is what they didn't take into consideration. You gotta let a hero through the banning phase. Yeah. It's not gonna be the Doob. It's gonna be the Enchantress instead of the Earth Spirit, and no matter what, it feels like you're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't.
Honestly, Newbee are just, this is why teams, and a lot of people all over China have been saying this is the team to beat in the qualifiers. They are incredibly talented. They've got a really great thing going. They end up being able to get the Ghost Scepter off. Kaka is not going to take any damage from that. They're trying to hit onto Chuan here, but he ends up Mantis Siling away for the moment, and Flame jumps forward, catches on the Moo. They get the mechanism off. They're already Mega Creep, but they have killed off the Oracle, and it does look like they're going to still end up losing 3. GG, well played, ends up getting called as CDEC Youth crumble to Newbee in game number 1. This best of 2. Blaze, break it down for me. What are we going to have to see out of them in the next stage here?
I think that they are going to try to adapt their strategy, try to focus a little bit more on less potential and more just actual something that's more tested, something that has direct results that can really build those opportunities. Because the way I've seen it so far is they are wishing that games would go one way, and then very clearly, if Newbee do A, B, and C, that the game is going to be going a completely different direction, which they have
Right.
absolutely no control over. So I think that that's a consideration, that's a concern, that at the end of the day, they have to find a better answer for Newbee's strategy. The problem is, this is like Alliance at the previous Starlighter, not the
Mm.
Invitational, but the one before that. They are specialists in these particular roles. They are able to do so much
Yeah.
with the Chuan 4 position, with the Mu melee initiator, with obviously K Phoenix on it seems like anything.
Yeah.
That guy. But end of the day, I really do feel like Newbie are in their comfort zone with all these heroes, and until they're forced out of this strategy, we're just going to see them repeat it. And they might make mild deviations here and there, but across the board, Newbie are in a great position in terms of the early drafting phases. Like,
Mm.
you always are wondering, what are you giving them, and then how do you counterpick around that? And that uh, mindset is just gonna lead you to defeated game sense. It's just essentially that you're constantly trying to counterpick, you're trying to deny pick, and you're not playing your own game. I guess CDEC Youth just really need to focus on what's in front of them and try to find something that's shown and proven itself.
I'm with you completely and totally. It did feel like they were just pushed out of their element there, and we'll see if they're going to be able to bring it back in game number 2. It's going to take place in just a couple of minutes. Again, always a pleasure to cast for you. Lyrical, Blaze, we're going to be back in just a few minutes. Stick around for more from the Manila Major Qualifiers Chinese region.